guy's really impressive, isn't he? Look at all this here. And you know, you guys weren't born when I was running, 45, 46-second quarter miles. So that's I got to move over here a little bit. Okay. All right. Oh, I see myself down there. Wow. Hey, there are two of us now. I'll let him do the talking. I didn't sleep real well last night. But I made myself a cheat sheet, not to read poems, but just to remind myself what the poems were. So I'd like to, rather than talk about my running, it always embarrasses me a little bit. I did outrun Olympic champions, yes I did, but I did it before you guys were born. And I did it faster time than they won the Olympics in. That was Charlie Jenkins from Villanova, beat him 3 times. George Roden from Jamaica beat him once. And of course Jenkins beat me one time too, but it was at 600 yards where I was also national champion. But I shouldn't be talking about that because I want to talk about my poetry. I'm the Detroit Public Schools Community District Poet in Residence. And I'm having fun. I'm really having fun. I have my home school is going to be Douglas Academy, Frederick Douglass Academy. I was at Southeastern for 4 years doing this. That was my home school. Used to be my school when I was coaching track there. I coached state champions at Southeastern and at Finney and at Pershing and all over the place. I'm a Detroiter. I was born, raised, ran for Northwestern High School, played ball there, and also Denby. In fact, I got put out of Northwestern and got sent to my father, and that's how I finished up at Denby. But anyway, and that's all ancient history. I'm 85 years old now. I've been around the block. But Sean introduced me as a world-class athlete. I'm not a world-class athlete anymore. All you got to do is look at me. I'm on a cane. I'm trying to stand straight here because I usually am on a cane. And that was my body. I was born fast. But my soul has always been that of a poet. I've been a poet my entire life. And when I read my poems from my book, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John, that's my book. In fact, it's sitting over there next to V, where she's sitting. I didn't bring it up here because I couldn't hold it and read it, So I'm going to try to share with you just a few poems from. But you know what? I did write a poem. In fact, I wrote it in the bathroom. I wrote it down because I'm supposed to be telling my story, right? Well, this is my story. My story. I wrote it in 3 poetic lines, just like that. There have been many good ladies that I've chased. Just wrote this poem. There have been many good causes I've embraced. Because I've been a social activist my whole life, and that's a story in itself. There have been many good runners that I've raced. And that is my story. I should go and sit down, When I wasn't near to the girls I loved dearest, I often would veer to the ones who were nearest. And that also is a story of my life. It didn't, in fact, it got me divorced my first 28 years. My second wife I was faithful to. That was Gina Telford. She, African-American lady. And my third wife was Adrienne, and she was a principal in the Detroit Public Schools, and I lost her to cancer. I lost her to cancer on the 7th of January of this year, and I'm still grieving, and she's still talking to me. She still talks to me. She says, John, stay away from the bottle. Don't open that bottle because I know that's what you might do, and I don't want you to do that. My father was born in Scotland. He was a professional boxer. His whole family were alcoholics, and I probably have that gene. So it was a very strong temptation when she passed because she's only been dead about 9 months now. But she talks to me, and she says to me, we got dragons yet to slay. And there's a lot of racists out there. There are a lot of bigots out there. We have dragons yet to slay. And you better roll up your sleeve. You better roll up your sleeve. Roll up your sleeve and start slaying them. Because you're going to have to slay them without me now. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be watching you. And I wrote a poem about her that I think I can remember. This is a poem about Adrian. She dreams in raptured reverie of waterfalls and revelry, of scenes unseen and multi-hued by bubbling brooklets never viewed. She roams rainforests, new and clean, and like the Flint River. I can't remember the rest of it. I wish I could. She roams rainforests, new and clean, well, I'll come to the end of it. She sails celestial, starlit seas in universal galaxies. I was crying when I wrote that poem. I almost started to cry again now, so probably a good thing I couldn't remember the whole thing right now. If you wish your life never to sit on the shelf, you had better endeavor to write it yourself. And I did. I wrote a book called A Life on the Run. But it wasn't really about my life on the run. I had 206 races, won 174 of them. And kind of interesting to look at statistics, because in those 174 races I won, I wasn't just running one opponent like I did when I boxed. I was also Golden Gloves boxer. You're running against 7 or 8 opponents. So statistically, you had at least a 2% chance of beating me during my career. And I'm not supposed to be boasting. I don't like to boast, but that's just a statistical fact. But anyway, okay. I'll boast a little bit more then. I beat the European champion Giovanni Scavo in Bologna, Italy. And I wasn't going to tell this story, but it's kind of an eerie story. So I'm digressing a little bit, and tell me when I run out of time, because maybe I won't get back to some of my poems. But when I ran Giovanni Scavo in Bologna, Italy, there were 80,000 people in the stands, and when I wrote a poem about that, but I don't have it memorized, so I'm just telling the story. I was getting down my starting blocks, and my teammate, Lang Stanley from San Jose State, was getting down his starting blocks, and we got kind of intimidated because this whole crowd was shouting, "Scavo, Scavo, Scavo." It was deafening. And I won the race. And there was an eerie silence. And then a little segment of stands up here started shouting, Telford, because they had spelled my name wrong in the program. They had an extra E in my name. My name is Telford, but they were shouting Telford. And then another section of the stand started doing it. Pretty soon the whole stadium was doing it. And just this whole stadium was screaming my name. You saw the flags go up. And that was just, but that's not the end of the story. Scavo was only 19 years old. I was 21 years old. The year was 1957. It was a non-Olympic year. I had beaten Jenkins, though, that year. I beat him in Rome. I beat him in Austin, Texas. I beat him in Dayton. Also, I raced him again in Chicago over 600 yards, and I was a champion at 600 yards. And I saw this big brown leg come alongside at about 595 yards. I said, uh-oh. And he finally got me. And he said, finally got you, Detroit. I was running for the Detroit Track Club then. That was 1958. But anyway, back about this Scavo story. Scavo like to drive fast. And he drove up into the Abruzzi in his Ferrari, crashed, died. Now, this happened after I had flown back to Detroit. Got on the plane in Portugal and flew back to Detroit. And I saw it in the paper, you know, Italian champion killed. And we had exchanged pins and promised that we'd write. And about a month later, by slow freighter, came this letter. It's like getting a letter from a ghost. I got a letter from Scavo. And that's not the end of the story, since I'm telling it. I was in Cancun with my wife and daughter about 30 years later. And I ran into this guy with kind of iron gray hair. He was an Italian guy. We were sitting together at a floor show, and he had a whole coterie of family there with him. And we got to talking, and I told him, I ran in Italy back in the 50s, and I ran against your champion, Giovanni Scavo. I also ran against their 200-meter champion, Livio Berruti. I beat them both, by the way. But I said, yeah, I ran against your champion, and I beat him. He said, oh, no, nobody ever beat Scavo. You know, Scavo, nearly unbeatable. Just so young, so tragic. We lose him. Unbeatable. Just one runner named Telford. I got my wallet out, took my driver's license, showed it to this. He never let us buy a drink, buy any food. I had my wife and daughter there, my wife Lynn, my first wife Lynn, and that's the end of the Scavo story. It is kind of an eerie thing. Anyway, back to my poetry, if I got any time here left. I have a vision, okay? And this is a poem that I call my vision. I have a vision in my heart and in my spirit and my soul that all the children on my chart will never have to pay the toll of poverty or ravaged mind or end up dead or on the dole, but will, through education, find their life-fulfilling future goal. That is my vision. Thank you for listening to me. You got a wonderful operation here.